Conscience is an inner evaluator that is in every human being. It is evaluating perfection against imperfection. So the whole universe is created out of imperfection. Otherwise you wouldn't. So there's an imbalance in the universe. And that imbalance makes the universe move. Perfection does not move. It is still, it is pervasive, it is so perfect that nothing needs to be changed. Conscience is between perfection and imperfection. So when the conscience is not working, imperfection dominates. When the conscience is working, it goes closer and closer to perfection. And then everything that comes out of conscience that is nearer to perfection produces a perfect world. Mm-hmm. And everyone is happy.
Mm. So is it possible that humans, we could get closer to that conscience or to that state of mind?
Yes, now this is what spiritual development is about. Your senses are looking from perfection at imperfection all the time. The senses tell you that the world is real. The physical world is real. Because the physical world is fixed, static, it will embody imperfections. The perceiver is more perfect than the physical world. So the perceiver is closer to perfection. So conscience is a measure that tells the human being, because the human being is alive and not fixed, how to move from imperfection towards perfection. So your senses look outwards into the world of imperfection. The senses is looking from the world of perfection. So when you meditate, for instance, you close the eyes, and that is symbolic of closing the senses. And you go into the world closer to perfection. Now the mind has recorded the impressions of the physical world. So the mind has recorded impressions of imperfection. So when you close the eyes, you then have to close the eye that looks at the mind. When you close the eye that looks at the mind, now you've closed the second sense of sight or touch or smell or taste or hearing. When you go deeper than the mind, you're now going into the realm of perfection. And conscience is the measure. It's like a gauge that tells you if you're nearer to perfection or you are nearer to imperfection. So when the conscience is working properly, you can go easily from the physical world of the senses to the world of the mind by closing your eyes, and then to the world of perfection. And the closer you get to perfection, the more peaceful you are, the happier you are, the stiller you are, the more awake you are. And that is the whole point of spirituality, to go closer and closer to perfection by awakening conscience.
Talking about something that concerns young people, like it could be even myself. Young people nowadays, we see just like the international issues that they are happening, and we get that idea that there's some poverty is increasing. Do you think that people that they live on poverty, they can develop that kind of conscience? Is it possible to be poor and combine it with a spiritual life, or it will be more difficult because they have to survive and to look for themselves?
Right. So if you are concerned with surviving only all the time, then you have no time to do anything else. All the energy is going to be taken up in surviving. Now, nature has made it in such a way that you have to eat, you have to sleep, You have to wear clothes to keep warm. So this is a compulsion created by nature. So nature is saying that in order to be a human being, you have to satisfy those basic needs. So it means to say in the world today, if the politics, if the human beings satisfy all the needs of all the human beings so there is no want, then the human being could start considering higher things, the higher purpose of a human being. So a lot of human beings today are living at the lowest level of a human being. So they are very much like the animal kingdom. They are surviving. They spend all their times looking for food, looking for shelter, avoiding the elements. And the human being has a higher purpose, which is to discover what animals cannot discover. So it means to say that we as human beings have a responsibility of looking after all the human beings. So the ground floor of the human being is food, shelter, clothing, and the basic education of how to communicate with your fellow beings. Those who have satisfied that level then begin to ask questions. Is this all, or is there more? And they are now ready to turn within. Now, if you're spending all your times warring with your fellow beings because of a system, an ideology, a religion, a race, some problem, then all your energy is going to be spent in the ground floor. So you would not be able to engage in anything finer. So a certain basic level of need must be fulfilled. Now, in the world today, we are not engaged in finding out how to look after all human beings. We are engaged in ownership of property, ownership of land, acquiring things, and that creates conflict and differences. So the ordinary human being has no time to inquire into deeper things. So they're going to remain unsatisfied, unfulfilled, and it will add to the conflict. Now, if, for instance, you want to go deeper down and you're poor, you have to make a much greater effort to go deeper within yourself. So some of the ancients, they prescribed monasteries where people could take vows of poverty, etc. But they are looked after. They have a place to sleep, they have clothes, and they have food. And that is looked after by the community. So as an individual, it leaves them free to inquire. Now, when you come out into society, there is no such thing. So most of those people who live in the society cannot really engage in spiritual development if they are always concerned about food, shelter, etc. So a society needs to create conditions where some human beings who are interested could go deeper within themselves. Now, when you go deeper within yourself, you will find your skill, your ability, what your contribution to this world is. Then you're happier. If everyone was encouraged to do that, then the society will be a much better place. The society will make sure that all the physical needs of everyone are looked after. All the food for everyone is looked after. Shelter and everything is looked after. So that is really a duty for a society. In order for those human beings who have talents to be able to go deeper and give those talents to the society. And for those human beings that want to go deeper than the talents, could go deeper within themselves and discover the higher purpose for human beings.
Mm-hmm. And from a spiritual way of life, I mean, people that they work on their inner selves, how can do they help to make this world a place that can be just like, that can allow people to find their inner talents?
Well, those who have found their inner truth, their inner freedom, their inner purity, their inner wisdom, that's the highest talent. Those are the ones who are capable of teaching others. So they have to teach how to go inwards. So going inwards is a natural process, because when you were a baby, you grew outwards from the inside to the outside. So the process of going back inside is as natural as it was coming outside. But the senses, the objects of sense, draw the senses outside. Your eyes want to see color, shape, form. And it finds that very interesting when the eyes are open. So you have to learn how to close the eyes and begin to go inside. As soon as you close the eyes, all the colors disappear, all the shapes disappear. All the objects that occupy us every moment of every day when the eyes are open disappear. And that gives you maybe 50% freedom to go deeper within. Then the mind, which carries memory and spontaneous knowledge, is going to be the next barrier. So the eye that looks at the mind has to be closed. Now all this has to be taught step by step by someone who has already accomplished all that. So therefore you get teachers. In the East they were called gurus. Guru means a remover of darkness. So the person who becomes guru must have already removed the darkness from the different levels of his being. And the speech and the instructions would help other human beings to go within their own being. Not necessarily to worship the guru, but to help every human being to go within and experience whatever the guru found inside. Now, you cannot describe this, because it's an internal experience that is possible in every single human being. Because the baby was there already, and the baby has come out slowly as the ages increased. So it means that you have it there already. Now, an easy way to discover that is when you go to sleep at night. Why do you close your eyes? In order to go to sleep. You close your eyes in order to go to sleep because every single object has a sound, a vibration, and it's attracting the mind. So you close the eyes and all those vibrations disappear. So that is like the first step in meditation. You close your eyes in order to go to sleep. Now you could dream all night. It means that you have not closed the mind. So in order to go deeper, the mind has to be closed. When the attention is no longer interested in the mind, it withdraws deeper down, the mind disappears, and the person goes into deep sleep. And you get up in the morning refreshed. Now meditation is very similar. The only difference is in meditation, you stay awake when you go into that deep level beyond the mind. And much more energy, much more peace, much more freedom, much more purity comes out than is available in deep sleep. And that then infuses your mind and infuses your body and infuses your senses, and it produces an energy in this world that is much happier, much clearer for human beings. And then human beings could carry out all their functions in that manner and make the world a better place.